Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Let's give a big round of applause to Maya. My name is Harai Prana. This is the Bhakti School Tuesday program. And tonight we have a very special guest. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. Anybody's first time here? Thank you so much for coming. So today we have a very special speaker, Dr. Edith Best, Urmila, Devi, has a doctorate in education and has circled the world over 20 times, delivering workshops and one-on-one coaching. She has helped hundreds of people in dozens of countries find meaningful success in careers that resonate with their own values in nature. Dr. Best surveyed nearly 400 people on 6 continents for her in-depth research that explored the relationship between overall job satisfaction and various aspects of work, including spiritual faith and practice. She'll be speaking a little bit about her book, Career Dharma, and we also have some copies that we have right after the class. And so the format for tonight's program is Dr. Best will be speaking to us for about an hour, and then after that we will have a little bit more kirtan, and then we'll have the dinner tonight. So without further ado, let's give a big round of applause. And one more thing is, if you can scoot forward a bit, a little bit of sliding yoga, never hurt anybody. Sliding yoga. We invited the whole borough of Brooklyn for this program. Whole borough.
Your time was so lovely, I just wanted you to go on and forget about my classrooms. There's room. There's places. There's place here, and there's places. So I'd like you to imagine that your daily life has come to include all the activities you've always dreamed of, that you're doing the kind of work that is the best expression of yourself, filling your life with the types of prosperity that really enrich you and that you joyfully share with others, and that your work is creating real purpose and meaning in the world. Now I'd like you to imagine that the whole world is full of people who are living life. So that's what we're going to look at, and Dr. Ruchira Dade, her PhD is in mathematics, and she's also done a lot of medical cancer research, so she's the hard scientist, I'm the social scientist. And we spent about 6 years researching the Vedic wisdom literature, such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavad Purana, and we also have in our book over 400 empirical sources. I saved 5 copies for you. I've been teaching this in the week that I'm here, and I said I've got to save at least 5 copies to bring here. Those of you who want a book who can't get one, they are available on Amazon. They were an Amazon bestseller continually for 2 months. And also have a copy of our other book here, How to Find the Divine in the Water, in the Sunlight, in your breath. So this is, I'm going to do a run-through overview of the whole book. If you can show it, it's a big book. Yeah, we talk about, Richard and I talk about that it has a thud factor. So, to go through this in like 45 minutes, 15 minutes for questions, obviously I'm skimming the surface. So if you feel I'm not going deep enough, you're right. We are in the process of creating an online course. Actually, the course is finished. We're just doing the final editing, and then we're going to have some people test it. So I figure another few months it's going to be available. Right. So I am going to go through this very fast. Yes. And since you're all in New York, I assume, I'm a native New Yorker, I assume you can handle New York speed? Yes? All right. Okay, we're going to look at identifying our ideal career field and prosperity type, which is what most people are interested in primarily. But that's not the be-all and end-all. We want to go beyond that to learn the secrets of making our work deeply meaningful, and then beyond that to progress to Dharmic mastery, and then the whole system for peace and prosperity. Now in the book, section 1 is really part 1, then part 2 goes over what's here, sections 2 and 3, and part 3 goes over section 4. Now these 4 parts encompass 9 principles of career dharma, and I wonder if you could read them with me. Connecting our nature with our livelihood, advancing through life while nourishing our nature, extending our prosperity to others, ethical and meaningful work of value, delight in cherishing our prosperity and field of work, having celebrations of the sacred in our life and work, above the shades of ego, maintaining societal balance, cooperation between the fields, and competition within the fields, all-inclusive sustainable prosperity. So let's start with our first main area, identifying our prosperity type and career field, and principle 1, connecting our nature with our livelihood. So often when people talk about a successful career, what they mean is that you make a lot of money, right? I want to ask you, have you ever met, heard about, read about anyone who doesn't have, why don't you sit so you can see? People on that, there's a place there, and there's some more room there. We can move even a chair back there, and no point in my making these presentations if you can't see them. Have you ever heard about, read about, known anyone who didn't have a lot of money but who had a rich life? Anybody ever? All right. Have you ever met anyone, heard about, read about anyone who had a lot of money and a poor life?
Yes. Yeah.
If you haven't, just read any headlines in the newspaper. So certainly money is important. I mean, you know, I can't buy shoes without money. Obviously everybody needs to have money. But that's not the be-all and end-all of whether our life is truly prosperous. So the Vedic wisdom literature details 6 ways of being prosperous. Now, when I teach this in depth, I spend up to a 2-hour class just on this. And we do a lot of interactive exercises. In the book, in Appendix A, we have some exercises to go more deeply into this. So the first is Aishwarya, which comes from the Sanskrit word, anyone know? Ishwar, which means controller. So there are those of us who really thrive in leadership positions. This is talking about positional leadership, where you're managing people and projects, you're putting people in the right places, you're organizing them. And like a good friend of mine in Europe, she has a business, and gradually she says, I've spent less time on marketing, sales, and more on helping other people to become successful. At this point, I'm managing a whole crew of people throughout European countries. I said, well, how many people are you managing? She said, oh, about 50,000. And so some of us really thrive on having positions of administrative leadership. Other people really don't like it. So I have another friend in New Zealand who said, you know, once they put me in a leadership position in the school, I can't sleep anymore, I'm getting digestive issues, I can't wait until I can stop this at the end of the year. And others of us are kind of ambivalent. So I'd like you just to think for a moment of when you've had Aishwarya as part of your work, or when you haven't had it. How do you feel, or what happens with you when you have it? And how do you feel, or what happens with you when you don't have it? The next is Gyan. Gyan is knowledge and wisdom. So some of us love to have jobs where we are forced to keep learning. Like I know one eye doctor who told me, I've got to read at least 3 journal articles in my discipline every week or I can't do my work. So work where it's part of the job. You have to keep learning. And there are people who love that, people who don't want that. They said, look, I learned what I needed to do my work, and I don't want to have to go to in-service training every year and do this. Like, I've learned it, that's enough. Right? I'll study what I'm curious about in the evening. So some of us really want Gyan as part of our work. Some of us really don't, and others are ambivalent. Well, if it's there, it's there, it's not there. I'd like you to think of when you've had Gyan as part of your work, or when you haven't had it as part of your work. How do you feel, or what happens in your life when you have it? How do you feel, or what happens in your life when you don't have it? The next is Virya. Virya means strength and health. So I have a friend who works in construction, and he said, what I like most about my work is how physical it is. If it rains for 3 days, I just start feeling restless. I have another friend who takes care of cows, and she said a similar thing. She said, what I love best about this job is the walk to the cow barn and back, the physicality of taking care of the animals. My daughter runs a classical dance, Indian classical dance school, and she loves getting that workout whenever she's teaching. And then some of you have been to Divya's restaurant in Manhattan. I remember her telling me how much she loved the fact that not only was she developing Ayurvedic recipes, but she also had to taste them and eat them. So that wasn't a virya in terms of physicality and moving heavy things around, but her work filled her with health. Now this doesn't mean work where you help other people become healthier. Like a dentist helps other people become healthy, but their work doesn't make them healthier. So we're talking about where the work contributes to your strength or your health. Now some of us really want that as part of our work, others of us don't. There's some of us that say, hey, I want my exercise and my health to be something I do for a break. I want it to be something I do before work or after work or on the weekends, and I don't really want it as part of my work. And other people are more ambivalent. So I'd like you to think of when you had virya as part of your work, when you haven't had it, how do you feel or what happens to you when you have it? How do you feel or what happens to you when you don't have it? And there's Shri. So Shri means kind of like sparkliness. And it can mean any kind of beauty. Visual beauty, auditory beauty, olfactory beauty, kinesthetic beauty, like working with textiles. It can mean beauty of nature. It can also mean charismatic leadership. And this is a little different than Aishwarya. Aishwarya is a positional leadership. You actually have a title. You're actually controlling people and things. You can have charismatic leadership in Shri, where like you're on stage and people are inspired by you. Or you're making videos that are inspiring people, but you're not really in charge of anyone. Obviously you can have Aishwarya and Shri, right? But you could also have just one without the other. So again, my daughter runs a classical Indian dance school. She has a lot of Shri in her work. There's the graceful beauty of the dance, there's the beauty of the costumes, the beauty of the music, and so forth. My friend who manages 50,000 people in a essential oil business. So she has olfactory beauty as part of her work. So some of us really like to have some form of Shri in our work. And some of us really don't. There are people for whom they think, oh, that's an unnecessary frill. You know, I just want to do the practical things. If someone else wants to make things beautiful, they're fine. But that's not really what I want to have as part of my work. And then there are people who are kind of ambivalent. So with any of those forms of Shri or any combination of them, if you could think about when you've had that as part of your work, when you haven't had it, what happens in your life or how do you feel when you have it, what happens in your life or how do you feel when you don't have it. And the next is Yasha. So Yasha means fame, but it's a very particular kind of fame. There's actually a personality in the Bhagavad Purana called Yasha, who is the child of Kirti and Dharma. So Kirti means to talk about, related to the word Kirtan. Dharma means what's good, what's authentic. So if you have Yasha, people are talking about you because you're good. And they're talking about you authentically. Right? It's not just people are talking about you. So to have Yasha as part of your work would imply that your work has some kind of a supportive community. It's giving you authentic appreciation and acknowledgement. And there are many people for whom Yasha as part of their work is essential. I know people that, I work with people where if you ask them to get something done, nothing happens, and when you ask them to get something done as part of a supportive team, everything happens. And then there are other people who really don't want Yasha as part of their work. They're like, I want my social connection and my community and my acknowledgement to be with my family and friends in the evening or on the weekends. And when I'm at work, I just want to get work done. I want to work by myself, or if I work with a team, I want to totally task focus, really not interested in the other aspects as part of my work. And then there are people who are ambivalent. So I'd like you to think about when Yasha was part of your work, when it wasn't. What happens with you, or how do you feel when you have it? What happens with you, how do you feel when you don't? And the last type of prosperity is a very strange one. It seems like almost an anti-prosperity. Raga means attachment, vai means without, to be without attachment. Equanimity and freedom, simplicity. Having vairagya in your work could show up in many different forms. Maybe having work that has a flexible schedule. Maybe work that involves a lot of travel. Maybe work where you can live a minimalist lifestyle. I was reading one man, he said, what I love about my job is I can ride my bicycle to work. Maybe it involves a lot of emotional, social detachment. If you think about, like, say, people who deal with drug addicts or criminals or people really going through awful things in society, a lot of them, in order to do their work, they have to develop a deep type of detachment. Okay, what would be really nice, because people come in, and what happens when people come in is they all end up crowding around the door. So maybe what we can do is right here, if you let me, people right here, well, you're not going to get them to come forward. They don't do that. Just, if you get people, oh, look, one person did. Now we have a courageous person. Look at that. Okay, but don't sit where you can't see the screen, so don't come forward too much. because I don't want you to be like this, and then afterwards you're gonna have a cake. And maybe these cushions can be brought to the back where people are coming in, so that cause spaces. So then there are people who really thrive on this, who really want some work that involves vairagya, and other people who don't want this as part of their work. There are people who'd much rather have security and regulation. They want to have a life where they have extras of things, and this is just not their thing. Or they want work where they are very involved with other people and the world. So I'd like you to think about when vairagya was part of your work, when it wasn't, what happened in your life, or how did you feel when you had it, what happened with you, how do you feel when you didn't.
Can you repeat it again?
To be a little bit more specific.
About vairagya.
What part?
You were asking a question to relate it to our lives, and I couldn't catch.
Oh, the question. So I'd like you to think about when you've had vairagya as part of your work. When did you have work that involved equanimity, freedom, detachment? And when did you have work that didn't? And then what happened with you? Like when you have it, did you like, yes? And you felt full of energy and enthusiasm and you liked to do the work? Or when you had it, we're like, gosh, this is scary. I want more stability, or I want more dealings with people, or what happened with you? And when you didn't have it, what happened? When you didn't have it, you were like, God, I feel like I'm tied up. Or were you like, oh, I feel like I'm secure and everything's okay and I'm stable. So what were the responses to you? How did you respond to situations when you had it and when you didn't? So I think everyone has probably found 2 or 3 of these that you thought, well, this is really important to me, yeah? Mm-hmm. And probably a couple that you were either like ambivalent about, or I really don't want this as part of my work. In our Appendix B, we have an exercise where you rank these in order of importance, and then you have someone work with you to further refine that ranking. Now, these 6 types of prosperity gives us some indication of specificity of career within the context of 4 broad fields of work. Now, most of us have 2 or 3 types of prosperity that we really find are going to be very important to us in our career, and no matter how much money we have, if we don't have those types of prosperity in our career, we're not going to feel that we're rich. But with the fields, we're only going to have 1 field. And no matter how many times I say this, people always argue with me about it, but we're only going to be in 1 field. These 4 fields, Ruchir and I have come up with these particular English names. Some of you are going to know the Sanskrit names for these fields. What I would like you to do, if you really want to study this, I'd like you to forget that you know the Sanskrit names, and I'd like you to forget that you know the Sanskrit names for at least a week. And why is that? Because the Sanskrit names come with a lot of baggage and misconceptions for most of us. So I'd really like you to kind of put that aside. The Vedic wisdom literature, the scriptures, like the Bhagavad Purana, the Bhagavad Gita, divide all the hundreds of thousands of different types of careers into these 4 fields. And Dr. Datta and myself, we were really discussing, why? What's the purpose of doing that? Why not just say, well, whatever type of work you do, you can do it for divine purposes, you can do it spiritually. What's this purpose of this division? So one purpose is that these 4 fields always exist in human society. Specific careers come and go. There were no software engineers 200 years ago, not very many blacksmithing jobs today. But these 4 fields always exist. So even if a specific job is lost, you can find another job within that field if you understand the fields. The main reason is that the Dharma of each of these fields is different from the Dharma in the other fields. What's Dharma in ideas is adharma in government. What's Dharma or authentic, proper work in resources is adharma or inauthentic, improper work in artistry. And that's the reason why we can't be in 2 fields. We'd be at a war with ourselves. If we think we're in more than one field, we're either confused, which is very common in 2024, that people are confused, or we're in one field that particularly assists another field. So that's not uncommon. A person may be working in government, but particularly assisting artistry, or working in artistry, but particularly assisting government. Now, my preference is to spend 1 to 2 hours defining the fields and another 1 to 2 hours defining the nature of the people in the fields. And I'm going to do both in about 10 minutes. Is that enough time to really understand it? Up to a point, yes. But at least you can get some idea. So we want to define what do these 4 fields mean, and then we want to define what is the temperament of the person who belongs in the fields. You can think about the fields like containers, like if you had 4 containers, and the temperament of the people are the people who are suited to be in that container. Now, each of these 4 fields is very broad and encompasses thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of different jobs. So they're not limitations. They're ways for us to find out where we will shine, where our natural values, our natural authenticity fits what we are doing. So the first field we're going to look at is artistry. So the nature of this field. This is the field that provides all the beauty and functionality of society. Without this field, nothing works. These are the people that make society work. Beauty and functionality. I'd like you to guess what careers might be in this field, and wrong guesses are just as helpful as right guesses. This is not an exam. I'm neither testing you nor me. This is a learning experience, and knowing what something is not is just as valuable as knowing what something is. So any guesses as to what careers might be in this field? Not somebody who went to my Saturday in-depth class. Yes.
All types of craftsmanship,
Could you give some specific examples?
for example, clothing, jewelry,
Clothing, jewelry, be more specific.
making the clothes for people,
So actually like being a tailor,
tailor,
okay?
or carpenter,
A tailor, a carpenter,
jeweler,
Hmm?
or jeweler.
a jeweler, okay, excellent, yes. Anyone else?
Architecture?
An architect, yes.
Any professional,
Any professional, that's way too vague, give me something specific.
physician, dentist, everyone.
Physician, no, dentist, yes.
Why?
Hopefully you'll figure that out when we get to who the physicians are.
Entertainers like actors and singers.
The vast majority of actors and singers, yes, some of them no. Maybe someone could put this chair back for this lovely lady so that she can see. Did you come up for the chair, or are you going to sit on the floor? Oh, but maybe we can, or sit right here, or here, yeah.
Yes.
Deny. Any other idea?
Dancers,
Huh?
dancers, painters.
Most dancers, not all, most. Painters, fine painters or house painters?
Fine painters.
Most fine painters, not all house painters. Any other idea?
Cinematographer.
Farmers, someone said? No, if you own the farm, no. If you work on the farm, yes. If you're like picking the apples, yes. If you own the farm, no. I'm sorry,
Oh, I said cinematographer.
like people creating the film,
Yeah.
yes.
Director of photography.
The director, yes.
Designers
Of what?
of interior.
Interior designers,
Yes.
yes. Let's go to the temperament of the people suited for the field of artistry. So this is a field of satisfaction. These people are naturally satisfied if they have a nice place to live, good food to eat, loving people in their life, if they can be honored for the integrity of their craft or service, and they can please customers or clients, then they are satisfied. These are naturally satisfied people, not expensive people. Their real pleasure in life is the integrity of their craft or service and the pleasure of their customer or clients. Their mood is service. And this mood of service is the closest to Bhakti of all of the 4 fields. This is the only field that has this deep mood of service. The main questions they ask about their work are, is it beautiful and is it supportive? Those who have dharmic expertise in this field will sacrifice everything to maintain the integrity and the quality of their craft or service, even when they're pushed to make more money or to work faster. Like I once saw a sign in a restaurant that said, we make slow food. If you want fast food, go down the street. Next, we're going to look at the field of ideas. This is the field that provides all the wisdom and guidance for society. Any ideas about what careers might be in this field? Teachers, yes. Now, if you're just teaching people how to fix their carburetor, no. But generally, teachers, yes.
Consultant.
Depends what you're consulting about. So if you're a business consultant teaching people how to make their business more profitable and have their, then no. So it depends what you're consulting about.
Engineering.
Engineering is all in artistry. All engineers are in the field of artistry.
Lawyers?
Lawyers, no. Priest, yes.
Scientists?
Scientists, yes. A cult leader.
Everyone.
That would be an improper use of the field. That would be a corruption. Any other careers? That's the first time. I've been teaching this for a long time. That's a first. A counselor, yes. Counselor, therapist, psychologist, psychologist, a psychiatrist, psychologist. Parents, no, that's not a. Nobody ever paid me for being a parent.
It's not like ideas, but wisdom. It sounds more like it's not ideas, but like a designer of an idea.
Well, you know, it was really hard for Ruchir and I to come up with really good English words, and they were the best we could come up with. I'm not saying they were the best words. Yeah, these are wisdom makers, but we call it the field of ideas.
What about monks?
Monks? Interesting you bring that up. Monks are actually outside the four fields. They don't have any livelihood. And what we call them in our book is commensals. A commensal is a biological term. That means an entity that neither helps nor harms. This is a great group. So, commensals live on the border of society.
Fringe people.
So your commensals in society are your students. Monks are students. As if someone stays a monk, they're like stay a student. I mean, I have a friend who's not a monk, but who has like a whole bevy of masters and PhDs, and her father supports her, and she just, you know, keeps being a perpetual student. And we have in our book, we have 9 testimonials from people, and one of them is from a commensal. You know, he's basically a perpetual seeker, just nomadic and does a few odd jobs for some cash in his pocket, you know, but doesn't really have a career.
But it's different from a pastor and then.
Definitely, because that's a career. That's a livelihood. Yeah. Whereas a commensal, as I said, they're outside, they don't really have a livelihood at all. Also, people who are commensals are people who are retired. You know, so anyway, as students, retired people, people very old, getting ready to die, you know, severely handicapped people who can't work. And those are your main commensals, and then you have some people who are kind of perpetual students, and they never really go from student life into career life. So that they would not be in the field of ideas. Are you looking at what commensal is? No. She's so excited she goes and gets her phone. Okay, any other ideas of what careers are in the field of ideas? Yes?
Inventors?
Inventors are usually in artistry.
Oh, okay.
Maybe somebody like a marketer?
Marketer, no.
A writer?
Depends what they write. So if you're writing romance novels, detective novels, the obituary in the newspaper, you're in artistry. If you're writing books on philosophy and wisdom, then you're going to be in ideas. If you're a war correspondent, then you're in ideas. Depends again what you're writing poetry about. So if you're writing poetry about the beauty of spring and the rustling of the leaves, then you're in artistry. Okay, so we're going to go to the temperament of the people in the field of ideas. Like the people in the field of artistry, these are satisfied people. They're not expansive people, but instead of being satisfied with a nice home and nice food and loving family, what satisfies them is their mental, intellectual life. And they're often very uninterested in the basic comforts of life. They have an internal type of satisfaction. Now, both people in artistry and ideas have a temperament of honesty, but it's a different type of honesty. You know, your plumber is honest with you about how much he paid for the pipe. In fact, he'll even show you the receipt and charges you separately for the pipe and for labor. Right? That's not true when you go to a business. They don't tell you how much they paid for the pipe. And in the field of ideas, the honesty is in speaking straightforward truth, which is quite different from being honest about the pipe to please the customer or the client. The main questions these people have about their work are, is it true and is it wise? And those who have dharmic expertise in this field will sacrifice everything for the sake of objective truth. Again, think about like the journalists who will be imprisoned instead of reveal their sources, or they're working in a war zone, or something like that, where they'll speak truth to power. Okay, going on to the field of resources. So the field of resources provides all the resources. These are the people who provide all of the raw materials for food, clothing, construction, medicine, like that. This is an expansive field. They're providing all of the wealth for society in all of its varied forms, often working with natural resources, often working with the land, the water, the air, and animals in order to turn those into usable forms of wealth. Any idea of what careers might be in this field? Farmers, yes? Investors, yes.
Real estate.
Yes, real estate, a realtor, yes.
How about
Entrepreneurs, yes.
Pharmacy.
Hmm?
Pharmacy.
If you own a pharmacy, yes. If you're a pharmacist, you're in ideas.
Right, right. Pharmaceuticals, I should say.
A computer programmer?
Computer programmer is an engineer, and they are in
Artistry. Wealth management?
wealth management, yes.
Okay.
Bankers, now not the tellers. The tellers are in artistry. But like when you sit at the table with people at a bank, those people are in resources, and the people owning the bank, running the bank, yes. Okay. We're going to look at the temperament of people who should work in the field of artistry and resources. Unlike artistry or ideas, this is a field of expansion. The Bhagavad Purana said the people suited for this field are always thirsty.
curators? I think here.
Curators? What do they do? What do they do exactly? What kind of jobs? What do they do?
Setting up a gallery.
They organize, they're original art.
Is it are they running a business? Or what are they doing?
They could be ideas, they could be.
I'd have to look more at what they do to answer that question, and because I'm going very fast, I don't have time. But it's a good question, and I will look more into it. I'm going to look more into what exactly a curator does to try to figure out what field that goes in. Thank you. I like being stumped. No, seriously, I really do. I enjoy it tremendously. I always ask people to try to ask questions that I can't answer, then that forces me to do more research. So they're very expansive people. Their mood is that they want to take the flow of resources, bring it to themselves, increase it, and feed society, bring wealth to society. So our youngest son has the temperament of this field and works in this field. And he said to me, you know, I was already successful by my early 20s because I had generated more wealth for society than you and Father spent on raising me. And that's his general mood. So not only does he want to increase wealth for himself, but he wants to increase wealth for society. You want to feed the world. You want to clothe the world. You want to make the world prosperous. This is also a field of diplomacy rather than honesty. Right? So you don't go into a business and they don't tell you again what they paid for the pipe, because then you wouldn't buy it. I was talking to someone today in this field and they were saying, you know, marketing is by nature, has some aspect of diplomacy in it. Right? You give your angle about why you should get the thing. Now the people in this field, their main questions they ask about their work are, is it sustainable and is it regenerative? Which is why they have to make a profit. You have to save some seed from the harvest to plant the next time. You can never give everything away. So their main idea is there must be sustainable regenerative wealth, and they will sacrifice everything for that, for having ethical, if they have dharmic expertise, having ethical, sustainable, regenerative wealth for society. The last field we're going to look at is the field of government. So as soon as you have any organization of people, you have to have some kind of law and order. You have to have laws, you have to have enforcement of those laws, you have to have someone who's making sure there's justice, making sure there's care, providing things that individuals can't provide, like roads and schools and hospitals and parks and things of this nature. So this refers not only to political governments, but also to, in our modern day, what we ironically call non-governmental organizations who actually do government type work. But they do it by collecting charity rather than by collecting taxes. And this also refers even traditionally to landlords who may have an apartment building that's like a little kingdom, where they're collecting rent instead of taxes, and they're providing, again, water and maybe parking spaces and electricity. They're providing what people need. So some idea of careers in this field. Military, yes. Police officer, yes.
Principal of the school?
School principal should be a leader in ideas. In fact, we even say they're instructional leaders. Now, if you're going to have school board members, they're in government. And they're in government assisting ideas. They're making sure the laws are followed in the school, that the children are being treated fairly, and that everything's done according to law. Politicians, be specific.
Governor.
What?
Governor.
A governor, yes.
Minister?
A minister of education or minister of finance or secretary of finance or like that in the government, yes. Again, you don't get, that's a different category of life, that's not life.
Diplomat?
President, diplomat, excellent.
Lawyers and doctors.
Not doctors, doctors are in ideas. Lawyers, yes.
Civil servants.
Civil servants, yes.
Why aren't lawyers wisdom or ideas?
Lawyers are in government, doctors are in ideas.
Martial artists.
Martial arts. You know, most of them just do that as artistry. They don't really actually use that to protect people. I mean, some of them do. If they're really using that to protect people, yes. But if it's just entertainment, fitness, then it's artistry. Firefighters. Actually, if you want to think of the career that kind of epitomizes government, you can think of a firefighter. So the temperament of people in the field of government is expansive. They want to protect and take care of as many people as possible. And it's also diplomatic. Right? You don't want people speaking straightforward truth in government or they'll cause a war. And it won't work. So it's an expansive diplomatic field. And the people suited for this field are really into justice, morals, ethics, and care.
That doesn't describe lawyers, though.
It's the way they should be. Okay. These four fields always exist. People with the temperament of these four fields always exist. But the leader of our Hare Krishna movement said that we should teach this science. Why? If the four fields always exist and people with the temperaments always exist. A, people are in the wrong place. B, people are in the right place, but they don't know how to do it rightly. People are either in the wrong place or they're in the right place wrongly. So people can have an inclination for a field and can be doing it without Dharma, which we'll get to in a moment, how to do these things with Dharma. So, and my time here is so short. My experience is that if I spend 5 hours teaching, I could spend 10 hours teaching this. If I spend 10 hours teaching it, I could spend 20 hours teaching it. Of all the hundreds or thousands of things I've taught in the 51 years I've been in the Hare Krishna movement, I've never taught anything that has generated as many questions or discussions as this. And so I'm going to beg you all that with the time that I have, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I apologize. I'd love to, but I can't. The main questions these people ask about their work are, is it just or is it honorable? And they're willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of justice and honor in society. And these are run into danger people. That's why if you think about firefighters as the epitome of this field, they are run into danger people. Everybody's running out of the fire, they're running in. There's bullets flying, everyone's running away, they're running in. Now Krishna says, don't go in someone else's path, and he says this twice. Don't do work in someone else's field. Do work in the field that matches your temperament. He said, if you do work in someone else's field, your work will become a vehicle of fear. Bhayavaha. Like if you try to drive your car in the sky, or a bicycle in the water. What will happen on an individual level? If I'm doing my own Dharma, if I'm doing the work that's according to my temperament, I will feel energized. I'm going to feel energized. If I'm doing work that's not my temperament, I'm going to feel depleted. If I'm doing work that's my temperament, my mind is going to naturally be my friend. If I do work that's someone else's job, that's someone else's temperament, my mind will be my enemy. If I do work according to my temperament, I will naturally be detached from the results, and I can dedicate the results for spiritual service. Why? Because I'll be doing the work that's an expression of myself, and I'll be so satisfied, I'll get so much intrinsic satisfaction with the work that I won't be motivated by the externals. If I'm doing work of a different temperament that's not my own, I won't get that intrinsic satisfaction, and the only thing that I'm going to be working for are the externals, and I won't be able to be detached from the results. Okay, in identifying our prosperity type and career field, the second principle is advancing through life while nourishing our nature. Ideally, our temperament is recognized when we're children. The research shows that by age 13, you can ascertain someone's basic values and temperament. In my own anecdotal experience of teaching hundreds of kids, I would say many times by 2, 3, 4 years old you can tell, but certainly by age 13, and it should be then nourished as we're growing up, so that the way that life should work is that when we're young, we're actually, our nature is recognized and nourished, then in the prime of life, we have our career acting according to our nature. In midlife, we can retire and guide others, and in old age, we have nothing to do with any of this, and we prepare for death. Now, how does our nature get recognized? There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, and this is very important, our nature cannot be repressed. So when we're young, if our nature isn't properly recognized and nourished, it may come out in a way that's troublesome. And we give many examples in our book. So one of them is this man who when he was in school, he was always doing this. Hey, stop that. Stop it. Go to the principal's office. So this was all the time, right? And one day when he was 10, the teacher said, stay after class. Oh boy, I'm in trouble again. He said, no, you're not in trouble. I have something to give you. And what did he give him? Yes, and he became a very famous drummer. So we have many, many examples like this, where if our nature is not properly recognized and nourished when we're young, it may come out in a way that is disturbing. And in Appendix B, part of the exercises we do is we ask you to look at this. What are the things that you just can't help doing, that are just part of you? They can't be rewarded out of you, it can't be punished out of you. That's who you are. And that needs to be then trained properly. All right, so if we've now identified our nature, our prosperity types, our field of work, and we're acting according to our nature, is that enough? We want to go beyond that to find satisfaction and purpose in our work, to do our work dharmically. And here, principle 3, extending our prosperity to others. Everyone should give in charity. According to Vedic wisdom, nobody should just live by themselves, work, and keep all the money for themselves. At least share it, with your family, with your partner, with your kids, with your parents, with your siblings, somebody. With the squirrels outside your door, share. The universe rewards those who share. The Vedas teach that the amount of money we have in this life directly comes from how charitable we were in previous lives. And what's fascinating is that empirical research shows that charitable people make more money now, in this life. Now, charity doesn't have to just be money. We talked about the 6 prosperity types. Whatever kind of prosperity you're enjoying, you can use that in a charitable way. This is just what I could fit on one slide. So in the book we go into this in much greater depth. But whatever prosperity you're enjoying, share it. You're enjoying knowledge, share knowledge. You're enjoying equanimity, help other people to become detached and free. You enjoy leadership, do some volunteer work where you get to be a leader. You enjoy beauty, give some beauty voluntarily to others. Whatever you enjoy, share, 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 share. We all become happier by giving to others than just by giving to ourselves. If we didn't, there wouldn't be this whole business at Christmas. Could you imagine if the shop said, look, you've saved $2,000 for your Christmas gifts. Why spend that money on other people? They might not even like the gifts. Why don't you just spend the $2,000 on buying the gifts for yourself? Would that work? No, isn't that weird? Why wouldn't that work? Then you'd get exactly what you wanted, right? Because we get much more joy out of giving to others. All right, so we could be in the right place and be giving in charity and sharing our prosperity, but that's not enough. We still need to do ethical and meaningful work of value. So to be ethical or honest, that means that I represent my goods or services accurately, I charge a fair price for them. If I'm employing others, I pay them fairly. Right? That everything is fair and honest. But even that's not enough. I've got to do work that's of real value. Like nowadays, a lot of goods and services nobody needs, isn't it? Manufactured needs, they call them. Artificial needs. Provide something that people actually need, and certainly not harmful work. Tobacco industry, alcohol industry, etc. So to do work that's not harming others and that provides real value. Now we have a chapter called Esoteric Work of Value. This is on a higher level. And this is something I love to talk about, but I can just touch on it. If all we're doing is just honest work of value, we're still within the laws of karma. And actually, we can only give value to people that they've earned by their karma. But it is possible to go beyond that and be an agent of ever-expanding dynamic good beyond karma. To do that, we have to get out of what Rajir and I call the cycle of frustration, which is we do our Dharma. From our Dharma, we get prosperity. Our prosperity gives us pleasure. But if it's just within the realm of karma, eventually we'll get frustrated and we'll say, oh, maybe I shouldn't work anymore. Maybe I should have a different job, or maybe I should. And eventually we get frustrated with that, and then we go back in this cycle. To be an agent of ever-expanding dynamic value, we need to work on the platform of love. Love of ourselves, love of our work, love of those who we serve, and ultimately love of
God.
Now there's another way in which our work can be ethical or unethical, and that may surprise you, and that is whether or not we do our own work. As soon as I do work, as soon as my temperament doesn't match the field, as soon as you take the temperament of one field and put it into another field, the work is unethical. You cannot do ethical work if you're in the wrong field. So we have 2 chapters dedicated to this in the book, and this is again something that I can teach over for 2 hours just on this point. So just giving you a little taste of this. So if we look at government and resources, somebody with a temperament for the field of government, but they're working in the field of resources, or somebody with a temperament for the field of resources, but they're working in the field of government. So temperament of the field of resources working in government. What are they going to try to do in government? Make a profit, right? Yeah. Think about private prisons, which we have in this country. Are they motivated to reform the prisoners? No, they want repeat customers, right? But now think of people with the temperament of government working in resources. And if you know what happened in Russia when the government took over the farms? Famine. Everybody starved. Because they didn't have the profit motive. Huh? Often people with the temperament of government, they take over a business, they just give everything for social justice, business fails. And they're neither providing everything for the customers or their employees. Government and ideas, people with the temperament of government doing ideas work, people with the temperament of ideas doing government work. People with the temperament of ideas doing government work. Ideas people are extremely merciful. They do government work, they're soft on crime. Oh, all right, he raped some children, but he's really a nice guy. I don't think we need to put him in jail. People with the mentality of ideas working in government, they want to research and research some more and research some more and research some more, and a decision has to be made right now for people. That their needs aren't being taken care of and the research is going on for 20 years. People with the mentality of government working in ideas, they'll politicize knowledge. Do you trust a history book written by government?
No.
They'll often impose a more hierarchical structure on knowledge. Think of like how people are comfortable in the military, but ideas workers, they have this kind of free flow of mutual adjustment. And a government-minded person, they'll impose a hierarchy and stop the free flow of knowledge. Crossing ideas and resources. Somebody with a temperament of ideas working in resources, they're satisfied, they're not expansive. They don't want to feed the world. They'll grow some tomatoes in their backyard, they don't want to grow tomatoes for the city. And again, people will starve, they won't get what they need. Right, or I have an ideas person who's a friend of mine who started a business, and she said, I don't want to make money, I just want to give everything away. You know, they think making money, making a profit, well, that's just materialistic. Why would I want to do that? It's not ethical. Right? But people with a resources temperament working in ideas, they're going to think, how am I going to fund theoretical research? That's not ethical. How is it ethical to spend money on research that doesn't do anybody any good in the present moment? You know, you can only have research that's actually practical. And if they do research, then they're going to try to profitize knowledge. A pharmaceutical company doing pharmaceutical research. Do you trust that?
No.
Yeah. All right, crossing government and artistry. Somebody with a temperament of artistry working in government. These are people who want a comfortable life, good food, loving. They're running into danger with people. So there they are working in the field of government. They're shooting in a school and they're like, I'm not going to go in. Why didn't you go in? Well, they were shooting in there. Or your artistry-minded people working in government, it's too abstract for them. They're like, well, I can make a table. But what do I do when there's a battle going on? Like what do I do in the fog of war? What's the process? And people with the mentality of government working in artistry, these are people who are energized by crises. Do you want them doing your electrical wiring? And also the government-minded people, they're really into justice and morals and ethics. And here they just have to please customers and clients. They get very frustrated and they can become vigilantes or agitators in some way. Crossing ideas and artistry. Now these are both satisfied, honest fields, but very different kind of satisfaction, very different kind of artistry. When ideas temperament people work in artistry, they don't want to please customers and clients. They want freedom and they want to speak detached truth, and they tend to be terrible employees. They tend to be very insubordinate, they may procrastinate, they may miss deadlines, and they're going to feel very constrained. Or they may dry up the field. Artistry is the field that provides all the beauty and functionality, all the pleasures of society. And I know an ideas person who works in artistry, and he's like, why do the electricians make the wires beautiful in the boxes? Like, who's ever going to see it? And I say, you shouldn't work in that field. You know, and then you have the artistry-minded people working in ideas are like, what's all this theoretical knowledge? It's like crossword puzzles, you know. Or they may sensualize knowledge. You know, think of artistry as providing metaphorically the salt and the spices of all the food of society on a metaphorical basis. Without the work of the field of artistry, we'd all just eat plain rice, metaphorically speaking. But the ideas people are providing the vision for society. If artistry-minded people work in ideas, it's like putting salt and spices in the eyes of society. crossing resources and artistry. When artistry temperament people work in resources, they don't have an expansive mentality. They may bake some bread and have a little bakery shop to share the beauty of their bread, but they don't want to franchise it. They don't want to feed the world. Again, they're really going to have difficulty taking care of people's needs. And they don't have the sustainable regenerative mood of the field of resources, and their businesses may end up polluting the world. When people with the mentality of resources do work in artistry, they destroy the craft. They're expansive, and they want to profitize everything. They'll take the craft of chairs and they'll make them in a factory. Instead of making inspiring movies and books, they'll just throw a bunch of sex and violence in there to make money. They'll make fast food. Right? They'll destroy all of the craft and beauty. So therefore, ethical work also means work where my temperament matches my field. All right, going a little further to progress to dharmic mastery. So our first principle here, principle 5, is to delight in cherishing our prosperity and field of work. And this is very important. Even if people are in the right field, if they're not cherishing it, it's going to create chaos in society. Not cherishing our prosperity is like cutting off the head of the goose who laid the golden egg, or cutting off the tree branch that gives you fruit. So our first source of prosperity is our own body and mind. We shouldn't be doing work that's damaging us physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. And then we want to take care of the people we work with. This is also our source of prosperity. You know, don't damage them physically. Don't damage them mentally and emotionally. We want to do work that takes care of the environment, the land, the sea, the sky. And then we want to cherish our particular type of prosperity. All of our prosperity is an expansion, according to the Vedas, of Lakshmi Devi, who's the wife of God, or Mother Nature. The earth is also understood as the wife of God. Again, this is a short list. This is just what I could fit on one slide. We have a whole chapter where we go into this in depth, but just some examples here, right? Like, let's say that I'm enjoying vairagya in my life. So to cherish it, I don't want to be so detached that I don't care about anybody anymore, right? If I'm enjoying Aishvarya in my work, I don't just want to be the big controller, I want to help other people feel smart and competent. If I'm enjoying Yasha in my work, I don't want to use my good reputation such that people have to respect me even when I'm wrong. And I want to make sure that I keep integrity. And then cherishing the fields. Remember we talked about people with dharmic expertise, what they'll sacrifice for? That in artistry people will sacrifice to keep the integrity and the quality of their craft or service, even if pushed to make more money or be faster. In government, they're going to sacrifice to protect people for honesty and justice. In resources, they're going to sacrifice to protect their resources, the animals, the land, the water, the sky. In ideas, they're going to sacrifice for objective truth. And again, we go into great depth about how to keep the integrity of the field. So this is when people are in the right place, how to prevent the fields from becoming corrupt. The sixth principle is to have celebrations of the sacred in our life and work. In the Bhagavad Gita 3:16, Krishna says, Evam pavanitam chakram. There's a moving chakra. So in nature, the plants and animals, they take from nature and they give back. We have to do it deliberately. We have to so-called pay our electric bill to the sun. Remember that everything we have, our own bodies, our creativity, our ability, everything that we're enjoying is coming from a source outside of ourselves. Whether one sees that source as the great body of the universe, as the all-pervading light and energy, as the creator, the soul of the universe, or as a supreme being, Krishna, however one understands our source in the divine, to have some regular time when we take time off of our work, to have some ceremony of connection. At least once a week, preferably every day, and eventually we should come to the point, we have a nice guest essay called Every Act is Ceremony, where everything we do is a connection with the divine. Where everything we're doing, we say, yes, this is to give back to the whole. This is to give back to my source. This is to give to the divine. And then we live life with a thrill at every moment. Our last individual principle is to work above the shades of ego. So these are defined as tamas, sattva, and rajas. So tamas gives us ease and comfort, sattva gives us inner fulfillment, rajas gives us ambition. Tamas is a source of simple sensual pleasures, sattva of harmony and balance, rajas expensive sensual pleasures. Tamas facilitates sleep, sattva facilitates spiritual awareness, rajas facilitates external accomplishments. Tamas is full of fear and delusion, sattva full of truth, rajas full of desire and attachment. Tamas almost completely hides what are good and bad decisions. You can't figure out what you should do, what you shouldn't do. In sattva you can tell, what should I do, what should I not do. In rajas sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't tell. In tamas, when there's a problem, you want to avoid the problem, or maybe use violence or impulsive actions rather than solutions. In sattva, you have good solutions that lead to long-term good. In rajas, your solutions tend to create more problems. Tamas, you're self-centered. Sattva, you see everyone equally. In rajas, you have a partisan spirit. In tamas, when there's difficulty, you have blame and vengeance. In sattva, when there's difficulty, you respond with personal accountability and growth. In rajas, when there's difficulty, you respond with blame and justice. So I'm going to introduce you to these guys. I am Thomas. I'll do the right thing if it's easy, you know? Like I'll eat a plant-based burger if it's the same price at McDonald's, but don't expect me to go to another restaurant and pay more money, you know? I mean, look, I'm the kind of person, whatever's on TV, if my remote's over there, I'm just going to watch whatever's next, you know? Like, I'm not an ambitious person, yeah? And I'm not some really spiritual person. I take care of my people, right? And you better not insult them or insult me or I'll insult you back. Then we have rajas. I am a very good person. I'm a builder of society. I have built the hospitals, the schools, the museums. I work very hard for everything I have. You see, all of my accomplishments, all of my possessions, I earn them. And I will tell you about all my sacrifices and all my hard work and all the hours I put into them. I am not lazy, and I'm not saying, woo, person. And someday, my name will be in the history books, and my statue will be in the book. I am sattva. I live in harmony. I'm very forgiving because it makes me feel so good inside. I am not lazy and I am not ambitious. I have a shelf full of crystals and angels. And I see everyone equally, not like those materialistic people. So we want to be above these shades. All of these are egotistical. And what we want to do is be above these shades. Realize that we're actually a fully spiritual being and have a playful, frolicsome view of life. That we're actually in an adventure with the divine. We're a co-creator dancing with the divine in our adventure that we don't quite know how it's going to turn out. But at every moment, we're having playful fun. So how do these shades show up? So in charity, if you give in charity in Thomas, that means you give the wrong thing to the wrong person, like you give alcohol to an alcoholic, or you give the right thing to the right person, but without respect. You know, here, take your charity. Or the right thing to the right person, but the wrong time when they're on the toilet or they're sleeping. And in Rajas, you give the right thing to the right person at the right time with respect, but you're calculating. If I give this to this person, I'll get this thing back, and my boss told me to give it, and so if I give it, he'll give me a raise. Or you give it, and you're like, why did I give that much money? I could have bought a new car. And in sattva, you give the right thing to the right person at the right time with respect, because it makes you feel so good inside. And above the shades, you give the right thing to the right person at the right time with respect to please Krishna. At work, so Thomas working is disengaged, base, stubborn, deceitful, insulting, lazy, procrastinating. Rajas work is attached, greedy, envious, aggressive. Things go well, yay! Things go poorly. Sattva, you're even-minded, always determined, always fixed. Working above the shades, this is based on Bhagavad Gita 3:30. 3 things not to do, 3 things to do. 3 things not to do. Don't try to enjoy your prosperity exploitively. Cherish them. In Hare Krishna lingo, enjoy your prosperity as prasadam and not bhoga. Don't think you're an owner. I'm not the owner of my body. I'm not the owner of my mind. I'm not the owner of my talents, my career. And not to be lazy or crazy feverish. The 3 things to do: dedicate all my work to my ultimate source. Always remember, I am not the body, I'm not the mind, I have nothing to do with this world. I am a soul. And do the work that's according to my nature. So we have final 2 principles. This relates to the whole system, and the whole last third of our book is about this. We have a chapter on what is a vision for an ideal society. And we have a case study of what we call mathematical eco-sociology. So we're looking first at principle 8 is maintaining societal balance, cooperation between the fields, and competition within the fields. So these 4 fields are meant to cooperate with each other, not compete with each other. So ideas, trains, and guides, government improves licensing and accreditation, it provides venues and facilitation. Then resources provides the money and all the raw materials, and artistry has joint endeavors with the other fields to assist. It would be great if everybody was in the right place and cherished their field. But there are also checks and balances between the fields. So ideals holds government to the rule of law. Think about the role of a free press. Government, of course, enforces law. Resources influences by how they spend money. Artistry by where they decide to work, or what people decide to translate into art or music. Within the fields, there should be competition. It'd be nice if we always did our best for its own sake, but when there's competition, we become more energized and we can kind of probe the limits of our ability. But it should be healthy competition. You know, like jewelry stores together or fashion stores together that benefits the customers and the business, not trying to erase people or not predatory competition. Competition in artistry brings us inventions, masterpieces. In resources, competition brings us higher quality resources, better means of distribution of those. In government, think about the benefits of having more than one political party. Think about the benefits of having different forms of government, right? Different countries have different forms of government. Often within one country, like in India, there's quite different forms of government among the different states. Competition in ideas keeps science, religion, philosophy responsive to changing time, place, and circumstance while retaining the purity. And the last societal principle is all-inclusive sustainable prosperity. Modern economists made a deliberate, conscious decision to separate economic philosophy from natural resources. They said we are no longer going to link economic prosperity to land or resources. And they started defining economic prosperity as economic growth. What's wrong with that?
Deplete the resources.
Yes. You cannot have infinite growth on a finite planet. The result of saying that economic prosperity is economic growth is forcing the land. Artificial fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, forcing animals with hormones and antibiotics, forcing distribution so we can all eat strawberries in January. And then a huge wealth disparity where some people can't afford, one meal and another person has $250 billion. Forcing people beyond their physical, mental, emotional, and social capacities. So the last principle of Career Dharma is all-inclusive, sustainable prosperity. And as I say, in the last third of our book, we outline how this can be accomplished. So everybody should be able to work according to their natural temperament, enjoy the types of prosperity that enrich them. So we looked at identifying our ideal career field and prosperity type, the secrets of making our work deeply meaningful, progressing to Dharmic mastery, and the whole system for peace and prosperity. And I know I've gone over time, although I'm not even sure by how much I went over time. So these are the 9 principles, and I don't know if we have any time for discussion, and where is the person who's in charge, and can tell me if I just have to be quiet or if we have any time for discussion. One or two. I can take one question. Oh my God. And it's going to be from you, right? She says, well, you can take 1 or 2 questions from me, right? Yes.
What do you want us to take away from your seminar? Like,
Oh my goodness, that's the best question anyone could have asked.
What's the question?
what do I want you to take away from this? That spiritual life is not just about transcendence. That we are not promoting a world-denying, leave the world, go live in a monastery in the Himalayan mountains. That Krishna consciousness is also how to have an ideal society for an individual and collective level. That this is not just, I spend some time every day in kirtan, I spend some some time every day in mantra meditation, I learn how to offer vegetarian food and read the scriptures. That's wonderful and that's important. But also, how can I spiritualize my life? How can I spiritualize society? That what Krishna's offering in the Bhagavad Gita, what we're offering in the Bhagavatam, is not just, take your enlightenment and run. Grab your Krishna prema and go. But how do we make a world that's, Krishna wants, he says in the 3rd chapter, that he's arranged for living happily and attaining liberation. How do we live happily in the world? And everyone can take this up at least to some extent. Starting, well, today is almost over, but starting at least by today or tomorrow, you can do at least some of these principles that you haven't done yet. And even though we may not have 8 and 9 yet in the world, you can do some of 1 through 7, and as much as you can do of that, it will transform your life. And that will start having a ripple effect on others, and they'll say, what are you doing? You look so bright and hot and shiny and happy. What are you doing? That's my main motivation. That a society that is actually Krishna conscious is a society that's full of natural, healthy prosperity on every level. Not only on a spiritual level, but on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, on an environmental level. My spiritual teacher, A.C. Bhakti Swami Prabhupada, used the term peace and prosperity in his writings and teachings 195 times. We want to have a society of peace and prosperity, and we have a template for how to do that. We actually have a template, we actually have a blueprint for how to do that. It's not just words. We're not just some, Miss Universe pageant. I want world peace, but we actually have a step-by-step blueprint by which we can do that. So thank you very much. Anything that's good in this presentation is from my spiritual guides, from the scriptures, from my co-author, Dr. Ruchiradatha. Anything bad here is from me. So I hope that you can take the good and put aside the bad. I don't think I'm allowed to have any more discussion.
Just one question.
I don't know if I'm allowed.
Do you provide tests for people to know their
Okay.
Dharma?
So in the book, in Appendix B, we have a way that you can go through and work with someone else to do that. I also do one-on-one consultations with people, only people who've at least attended the seminar or read at least part 1 of the book. I will not do consultations unless you've done that first, because I won't even have proper language to discuss with you. My experience, and I spent a year literally touring the world teaching this. My experience with that is that most people, when they've read the book or gone through sometimes just this even brief seminar. I mean, I taught this seminar in literally 45 minutes in Lloyd's Bank to 30 people who had no spiritual background, and 3 of them came up to me afterwards and said, now I know what I need to do. So I find that often just by going to the seminar, reading the book, people can understand it for themselves. But if after having done that, you still have some confusion, I'm happy to do one-on-one consultations. We are working on as I said in the beginning, an online course. Right now the book is available in print and ebook. We are working on an audiobook that's almost done. We're having an in-depth online course that's also almost done. And I can give you the URL, people can sign up for information about that. After that online course is done, our next plan is to do a workbook, a printed workbook, and then to have a course to train consultants. So that's our next step in this. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mother. Dr. Edith Best, Urmila Devi. One or the other, I gotta choose. We have the kirtan now, so we're all just gonna stand up and move our mats to the side, and then we're gonna do a little bit of kirtan.
And anyone who wants a book, you can just see me after the kirtan.
Yeah, if anybody would like a book, stay after the kirtan, and actually Dr. Best will sign one off.
If you have to leave right away, you can come. But it's better if you stay for the kirtan.
I saw the back of your head, I was like, she's
Go to play. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama.